should I answer that question about which sky I prefer to see? I'm a bit of a science nerd. Actually, it kind of links to my conversation about my art today. So it's kind of, unfortunately, I didn't include any of my work that's about skies because I actually have lots of shows about, I'm a weather nerd. I love comets. Anyway, I love any kind of sky any way I can get it. So my name is Angela. Nice to meet everybody. I am a New York City-based playwright, primarily. I am a theater kid who became a theater person. And I have my MFA in theater from Sarah Lawrence College. I started as a performer. I've been a producer, a designer, a company manager, and then a playwright. That's really where my calling is. But I've since gone into fiction, nonfiction, and podcasting. So I'm the one-woman machine behind the And Then Suddenly podcast. And on that show, I talk to people about one moment that turned their lives upside down. And I can't know about it until we meet, because I think we tell really, really cliche stories about big life moments, which is kind of detrimental to our development, I think. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about my writing, primarily my playwriting, because I am a research-obsessed playwright. I excessively research for all of my shows in very unique ways. A lot of my training is based on ensemble-based theater, so creating, generating work with a team of different artists. Some of that work has been done that way, my work, and then some of my plays have been written just by me. So I just want to share a little bit about why I research, how I research, and what kind of work it's created. So to share my screen, oh, I always feel so nervous about this. It's like, will technology work? All right, can you see my screen okay? Perfect. So this is the first thing that ever got me into research, which is after I graduated from undergrad, I went to St. Mary's College of California in the Bay Area by San Francisco. I saw this really bizarre article while surfing the web about girls torturing their Barbies. There was a study done in the UK about how little girls play with their Barbies in 2005, and the researchers were shocked that the girls microwaved them, decapitated them, cut off their hair. And I thought it was so weird that people were reporting on this. And then I also thought it was weird the way they were doing it. There's a quote at the bottom from the researcher that says, "The children are not a pile of psychotics in the making. They see torture as a legitimate play activity." So this whole thing got my mind really freaked out, especially because I never mutilated my Barbies. And I thought maybe there was something wrong with me as a child. So I started surveying any woman I could find of any age about how they played with Barbie dolls. I researched how Barbie was made, why she was created, how her relationship in the public has changed decade by decade. And then I ended up creating Middle Crest. Middle Crest is a show that's very absurd and very dark about a Jane Doe that is found microwaving in a microwave at the beginning of the show. And the police department goes on an investigation because she is a doll, a Barbie doll, and they are interrogating all the little girls in this suburban community to know who did this. And so it became this big allegory about women's body issues, about societal impact on how we view ourselves from a family standpoint to the media. And that was really my first foray into creating. Everything I created was based on a fact I found, whether it was comments from women about how they played with their Barbies or the facts I found about Barbie herself. But then I came to New York for grad school. And then I made another big jump into the research world, which is in earthquakes. So I'm originally from Los Angeles. And when I moved to the East Coast, it took me about 2 years to be comfortable with the fact that brick buildings existed out here. I lived in Northridge during the 1994 earthquake. I was a 5th grader when that happened. And I knew that brick crumbled. My parents are in construction. I knew all about the building codes. And I found myself getting nostalgic for home while at the same time wanting to learn more about, in a way, how my relationship to the natural world is based on the fact that I'm an earthquake kid. So I went crazy with research. I looked at geology. I got into the USGS. I was looking at maps everywhere, and especially focusing on the valley area of Southern California. I also know if you're from earthquake country, wherever that might be along the Pacific Ring of Fire, there's earthquake stories that people have. Oh, my dog started barking. Oh, all the rattlers came out of the ground. Oh, the fish came to shore. So I also started collecting all of these natural stories from places along Latin America, the Asia Pacific, Alaska, down to California. And then I created a show called Faulted. I used every single one of those facts to make a character and the plot line. So you see there Aurora. She lives in the San Fernando Valley. She's an earth empath, so she feels what the earth is feeling. And that above her is the San Andreas fault line, and he is going to be the next big one to really put a dent in Southern California. And so that was a show that premiered in San Francisco. It was really funny that it premiered in San Francisco because the director really wanted to make a realistic earthquake, which we had to put warnings all the programs that, you know, we put subwoofers under all the seats to make sure everyone was shaking when it happened. But we had to let everyone know it wasn't real. But then this has led me to various other projects. I became obsessed with science. So I have written about comets. I've written about the second law of thermodynamics, which is like entropy and the heat death of the universe. And then it led me to my current obsession, which I've been working on for 3 years now, which is this image. I found this image about 3 years ago in a Smithsonian article. And the article was about a woman named Anna Coleman Ladd, who was a sculptor during World War I, who went to Paris to make masks for soldiers who were disfigured by shrapnel. And this image to me inherently was theatrical. It looked like a bunch of masks on the wall. The reason I became a writer was because I had a very physically traumatic event in a car accident as a high schooler. So I've always been drawn to themes of body trauma. So when I was looking at this image, I was like, these are so many stories of really specific body trauma. Stop sharing. So I ended up researching crazy Anna Coleman Ladd. I looked at the history of World War I, the responsibility of the Industrial Revolution in creating a really insane war machine as far as technology goes. I was looking at the history of plastic surgery because the reason we have plastic surgery is because of the shrapnel injuries. And this became kind of the ultimate research project because nobody had written anything about Anna Coleman Ladd. There was only news articles. There was no documentary, no books, nothing that I could find. There was one comic book in France that I was able to find. It was in French and I don't read French, so I had my Google Translator on my phone to look at all the bubbles. But I was able to find for the first time ever original source material. I was able to find all of her personal documents from the Smithsonian. I was able to find all of the receipts and telegrams and daily reports from the Red Cross funded portrait studio in Paris. I was able to find images of her working with soldiers. I was able to find a video of her working with soldiers. And my thing with research is I never want to be sensational with what I find because I think there's so much inherent hidden drama and just basic facts. So I always create based on an actual line. The name of the show is A Stupendous Illusion of Reality, which is what she described the masks in an article that she later was interviewed in Boston when she went home after the war. As a writer, I'm always putting actual pictures all along my wall as I'm working. So I can always be remembered that like this is something based in some kind of reality I'm trying to portray. All these guys are flipped over. So this is also, so like I wrote the first draft, took me a while. I wrote it last year and now I'm redrafting and I make sure to organize all my research so I can jump back into it. So the moment I see like this image, like I knew where I was when I found it or what it's making me feel. I'm just obsessed with research. And I also am obsessed with research as a fiction writer and nonfiction too. But I think that there's a lot of, being theatrical is being imaginative. And I think anytime you can throw found items into your imagination and make your brain trying to reason those out, I think you're going to create something unexpected that goes beyond cliche. And I'm trying as hard as I can not to be a cliche artist. That's a little bit about my work. I am the research obsessed World War I kid right now. Also now becoming obsessed with mathematics at Princeton, which is another show, which is going to be crazy because I'm not inherently mathematical. So there you go. That's a bit about my work, and I'm happy to answer any questions or talk with anybody.
This is Dorothy from France. So it sounds like research itself as a subject would be kind of an interesting either play or book or something. You know, like your obsession with the research instead of the topic.
Oh, as that being the actual that journey is in the inherently the research journey. Yeah, that would be interesting. I wonder how you would make it beyond just a bunch of papers. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's a lot of creativity in there. Like, it reminds me, there's somebody. Do you know Mary Zimmerman? She's an amazing director based out of Chicago. I believe she works with Northwestern, and she's created very imaginative shows. And she actually has a show about children's storytelling where she made all this crazy stuff happen with paper and like, imagine it. So yeah, that's true. Maybe that's what I'll be very meta. It'll be like my version of like adaptation, but just my research journey. That's a good point. I'm gonna think about that now.
This is Anisha from Niwot, Colorado.
Hi.
And hi, Angela. I was interested, especially that you were saying that you were interested in skies and you've done a lot of work with skies. And then just the way that you research and everything. Have you heard of James Turrell's Sky Spaces? Yeah, I think you might like him a lot. He was from MIT, and so just your interest in the Princeton mathematics thing. And I was lucky enough to be an educator working on a special program with him, but I think that you would really enjoy his sky spaces. And to me, they're very, they're calming and they're meditative, and I find that then ideas pop up and ideas for writing. There was one that I was participating in, and I heard all the sounds outside happening while I was just looking at the sky as it transferred from day to twilight to night. So it just stimulates the imagination. Yeah. So I think you might enjoy it.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely gonna. I think in a lot of ways science is very untapped when it comes to the creative arts, especially when it comes to language, and that there is a lot of drama in science facts. And yeah, so I'm always interested in ways to experience science as a storyteller. Thank you so much. I wrote it down. I'm gonna look into it.
Oh, I was just going to say, and science is very playful.
Yes.
So that stimulates for me. If I want to be stimulated in my art, oftentimes I'll go to the science museum.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think it's inherently creative, the scientific pursuits, and creativity is creativity. So we're all trying to figure out the world, and that's just all it is, Perfect. Oh, thank you.
Angela, I just wanted to mention a French artist called Kader Attia, who has done a lot of work on the gueule cassée, these broken faces. Have like some references in the, actually he connects these broken faces, the gueule cassée, with the colonial time and with African sculptures. And he made like real shows where he borrowed a lot of things from the French Museum of War and borrowed also a lot of exhibits or had from museum and African sculpture taken from colonial time. And he has a whole sort of approach and idea of these two meetings in a way. So repairing these broken faces connects us to repairing what we have done in colonial time with these cultures, in a way. So I think it's very interesting. He made whole exhibits. He's a visual artist, but with borrowed material from this time, from 1820, or just, just after when these gueule cassée, broken faces, were being worked on. he made these whole exhibits where he mixes. Actually, what the original point is that it just looks alike. These broken faces, they look like these African masks or these heads, but these, so you have this sort of similarity. One is a monster from the war, and another one is a god or an exhibit, a statue and an exhibit taken or ripped off in colonial time and brought to another culture. I don't know if I express his ideas well, because I just remember the exhibits and all the magazines of that time, also what soldiers used to do in the trenches, carving little objects. And I don't know, I think it would, you might find material or stories in English, because he went his exhibition toured in many places. So very nice work. Also your work. Thank you.